Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome in MVG or MV Garrison. Magnets. Magnets. Oh, cool. You make magnets. Tyla, welcome in. Bitter 80, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. This is a seller chat. We're not selling fabric today, so I'm just on my treadmill walking and we are doing my seller chat. So if you are a seller, shout yourself out. Feel free to tell me what you sell and when your next show is. So today I wanted to talk about a couple of things. First of all, read the show notes. So make sure you peeked in the show notes, read them, and the show notes contain all of the official places that you can go on Whatnot or off of Whatnot that are official to get help. So make sure you have the starred bullets that are in the show notes um, screenshotted. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is a seller help and chat. I walk on my treadmill while we talk about Whatnot things. So, welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. Happy Thursday. Hope you're having a good week. And if you're not, make it a good week. So, welcome in. So, there's a lot of updates that are coming. They've actually been putting off announcing some of them because they're working hard to get some really awesome things ready to be released. So, make sure you are checking your emails and then also make sure you are following the Whatnot seller account and that is where they do update releases. So they have a show scheduled on the 21st, and they haven't put what they're going to do. And I suspect they might be announcing some things on that show. So on the Whatnot Seller account, make sure you have that show on the 21st bookmarked. And then at the very least, they've got one scheduled for the 4th for product updates. So if we don't hear some news on the 21st, we will on the 4th. So make sure you have those shows bookmarked. Um, yeah, there's some good things coming, and that will help us as sellers a lot with productivity and some other things. So that's exciting. So, welcome everybody. So it looks like it's kind of slow this morning. Tell me, those of you that are here that are a seller, tell me what you sell and when your next show is and what you need help with. So if you have questions, put them in the chat with a question mark and we can try to help you with things that you need. My name is Dana and I sell in the category of fabric. Good morning. What goes around? How are you today? And we sell fabric and sewing stuff and crafts. And I do dabble in a couple of other categories as well. I've been selling on the app for 3 years and going, and it's been an amazing journey. And I think everyone that works hard enough and wants to can be successful on this app. So you just have to find your niche, work hard, be consistent, and continually learning and working to improve. And you can be successful on this platform. You do need to have, a goal, decide what it is you're wanting to achieve, and then make sure the effort you're putting in matches what it is you're wanting to achieve. So goals are important. How many of you were able to tune in yesterday to the Whatnot Seller account and watch the interview with Christine? Um, she gave a lot of good information, those shows are always really good to kind of help you refocus on the things that are important to be successful. So if you missed that, they will post it to the YouTube account, which is the second starred bullet in the show notes. And in order to get to the YouTube account, you do have to type in the ampersand at Whatnot app, because otherwise there's a lot of Whatnot content out on YouTube and it's hard to find the account. So type it in with the ampersand and then you'll see it with the official Whatnot logo. And then they're posting all those interviews and previous shows they've done on the Whatnot seller account. Plus, they have all the new seller um, videos that have to do with, content for helping new sellers learn how to use the app. So, welcome, welcome. Cindy's sewing journey. Welcome in. Tanya, denim, diva. Next up, outlet. Good morning, Trish. How are you? All right. So, no one's piping up. If you're new and you'd like to share what you sell and when your next show is, feel free to do that in chat. Good morning. So I'm happy to, open your profiles if you want us to look at anything. So next up, Outlet sells men's and women's apparel. Awesome. And when's your next show? And how long have you been selling? And welcome. So the categories have greatly expanded. Do I use a mic add to your phone? I got one and had an issue. I don't. I just put my phone close enough, my phone that I'm streaming from, close enough. I haven't had any problems with sound. So usually if you have an updated enough phone and put it close enough, you usually don't have any sound issues. But definitely, play with that. So next up has been selling for 3 months. Next show is in 30 minutes. Well, for heaven's sakes, everybody tap on next up outlet, give them a follow. And let's see. Based out of Louisiana. I've been to Louisiana. Awesome state. And new with tag apparel drop in 30 minutes selling North Face, Ralph Lauren, Carhartt, Nike. So good brands. Can everybody give them a follow and bookmark that show? So let me, if I can get my fingers to work without kicking me out. There we go. All right. So that's exciting. Welcome. And thanks for dropping in. And I hope you have a great show. And yeah, your profile looks really good. I would get some more shows scheduled. The more shows you have scheduled, the better, because then people can bookmark upcoming shows, and that helps you to get more. Um, that helps you to get more traction for the next show because you've already had a bunch of shows. Because instead of them only being able to bookmark one show, they can bookmark, 5 shows. So, and encourage people to go in and bookmark your shows. Um, you can't have enough shows scheduled, honestly. Just get a bunch of shows on there, and even if you have to move them around a little bit, um, they're there and they're getting bookmarks. And consistency is a good thing, but everybody has lives and things happen, so you do have to move them around sometimes, but the more shows you have scheduled, the better. So get more on there so that you can get more bookmarks. All right. Welcome in. Hey, that's Stitch and Witch. How are you? Thrift and Vintage. Kinetic Lace is here. How are you today? All right. So I am good. And hello. So I want to talk today about some of the exciting things that are coming down the pike. I've talked about some of them before, and asked yesterday about some of them, and they're still in the works. They are working hard on perfecting AI, which will make a huge difference for us being able to create listings so much faster. But I want to talk about one feature that maybe some people don't realize is already there that helps a lot. If you sell merchandise that is new with tag or has a UPC on the package, right now you can already scan the UPC code. And that, if it's not too old, it will create the listing for you to a certain extent. You do have to check it because sometimes it will put in a weird weight or put in a lengthy description that you need to modify, but it's amazing. Hey, Mary Luck, how are you? It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. So, to use that scan feature, let me just show you really quick. You go into your seller hub to create a product. So I'm on that screen where you just create a product. You give it your category. So tap the category that that product is in. And it's important that your category be as accurate as possible. And then when you click to add a picture, instead of upload or take or record, you're going to do that last option, which is to scan a barcode. Okay. And I happen to have an item here. Let me see if this one will scan. So let's see. All right. So I've got my item here and I'm kind of wiggly on the treadmill, so it's not liking that. Let me step onto the bar for just a second. All right. So I scanned that barcode and I used it because it was accurate. This is a little pack of stickers. See how it put the stock photo in there? And it gave me a title and a description. And then you just have to fill in your price and your shipping profile. Okay, you're so welcome. So if you didn't know that you could use that feature, it does save you a ton of time. Okay, so you scan the UPC. So let me show you again really quick. So instead of uploading a picture, okay, so here I am on the create a listing screen, right? Instead of uploading a picture, when you hit the picture, you're going to use that last option, which is scan a barcode. So this is only applicable for items that have a barcode or are new with tag. Okay, so then you use that, and then you use the camera on your device. This only works on mobile. You can use it on web version if you have a handheld scanner, but most people don't. All right, so then you scan the barcode. So here I am scanning the barcode on that item and see how it brought up. And so you look to see if that's an accurate representation of the item. It is. You select, and then it fills in a stock photo. You're still going to want to add more photos. And then you, in it, put in a title and a description for me. You just need to, check and make sure those look good and modify them as needed. Fill in the price, the weight, and you're good to go. So that's a really handy tool. And soon you're going to be able to do a similar process using AI, where you will just put in a category, add some pictures, and then do AI to generate your listing. So that is coming. They want it to be as good as possible before they release it, which makes sense because you want, the best possible um, listing that it can generate. So that's still in the works. So that's exciting, coming soon, hopefully. All right. Hey, Lone Pine Lasers in the house. Welcome in. How are you today? All right. So you're doing good. Good. I'm so glad, Mary. Good to see you. All right. So some other exciting things are coming. I'm hoping they're going to announce them within the next week. They kind of hinted at that, but at the very least, if you look at that Whatnot Seller account, there is a product update show scheduled for the 4th of February, and so hopefully we'll hear about some of the exciting things happening. So I'm very excited about some of them, and you will be too. How do you set up the cancellation setting so that you aren't automatically giving a cancellation? Um, I'm not sure how you would automatically give a cancellation. So, like if someone requests to cancel an order, um, if you go in and if you go in on a mobile device and cancel, it's pretty, fast. But if they request it um, through customer service, if you are part of doing your own customer service already, then it kind of asks you, do you want to accept this request or decline it or whatever? If you're not part of that, then Whatnot may automatically, without your input, depending on what they asked for, then they are handling it instead of you. But they are rolling that out to everybody where everyone will be handling their own customer service. And what that means is when someone presses on the get help with order, instead of Whatnot getting the request and handling it, you will get a message that says so and so is requesting whatever, and then you have to address it. That is coming. So it won't be through, if you don't already have it, they're rolling it out to everybody. You will be handling your own customer service. Oh, you did. Okay, awesome. And that is so much better because you know the situation, you can look to see, and you can address it that way. So just follow the prompts in the messages that you get in your customer service, in your message system. It will come in under that other category that's Whatnot customer service in your messaging. And then you can deal with it there. So, so much better. You are so welcome. So yeah, that's exciting. It's so much better to be able to help your own customers versus Whatnot just arbitrarily trying to decide what to do when people have an issue. And then in a lot of cases, they just, cancel or give refunds or whatever. And you're like, wait a minute. um, you know, Someone should have to be somewhat accountable and not just, get refunded or cancel if you weren't able to look at it. Yes, exactly. But now we but now won't we have to give the refund instead? Well, but you get to decide whether or not, because before you had no control. and that way you have some control over whether or not they just automatically get refunded, or you can see if you can, replace or give them a coupon, or, you know, have them send it back for an exchange, or, you at least get a chance for them to, interact with you and try to make it right as the seller, instead of, just them making arbitrary decisions. And yes, customer service will still be there if you're unable to resolve it. And then you would open a ticket and have them get involved to, finalize it. Because sometimes you'll get people that no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. And then it just needs to be passed over to customer service. Will we one day get control over the shipping for a more accurate weight, and not be charged if it's under 5 pounds, but whatnot thinks it's over? Well, you need to make sure on your end on listings that you're not putting too much weight in there. So if that's a problem, instead of using the weight ranges, use custom shipping profiles so that you have your weight more accurate. Because the only reason the system's going to think it's over 5 is because when you sold the items, their accumulated weight made it over 5 pounds. And so then that's all the system knows is what you listed it at. So if that's a problem, don't use the weight ranges. Use custom shipping profiles so that it keeps it under 5 pounds if that's a problem. So, yeah, that is a better way to deal with it, because they can, the system only knows what you've put in there. So, yeah, if you're selling, for example, if you're selling fat quarters of fabric, a fat quarter usually is only 1 to 2 ounces, but the range weight that they give the option for is either 1 or 1 to 3. And you don't usually want to use 1 because that's a little bit too low on some of them. So you're using 1 to 3. So then to get to a pound, 3 times 5, they're going to have to buy 6 fat quarters, and then they've hit a pound. But 6 fat quarters don't equal a pound, do they? So instead, use a custom profile that is a 1 to 2, and then it would take 8 fat quarters before they hit a pound, and that's more accurate. Does that make sense? So just use a custom profile to create a custom profile. So go into your shipping settings. And when I list specifically fat quarters, that's what I use as a custom one that is a 1 to 2 when I'm selling fat quarters. So it doesn't overcharge or over calculate the weight. So in your seller hub, go into your shipping settings, right? Go into your shipping settings and then go into shipping profiles, which is here. So I'm just in seller hub, shipping settings, shipping profiles, and just create one that is, and you just create one by hitting that plus sign. And I have one in here. Let me see. Yeah. So I have one that's the Fat Eighth game. And that one I sell when I do that show, or when I do that, I sell two. They get to pick 2 fat eighths, and see how I have it set for 2 ounces. Okay. And then that's the profile I use on that listing. Okay. And then somewhere in here, I thought I had one that was fat quarters too. I don't do fat quarters very often. So I think that's the one that I was using for that too. Anyway, so that's how you do it. And then that's going to be more accurate. I don't worry about that too much simply because I use flat rate. And so, it accumulates weight. And once they hit a pound, I don't really care if it's over 5 pounds because I just use flat rate shipping on all my fabric shows. If I do a different type of show, then, I'll fix the settings accordingly. Because once you're in over a pound on flat rate boxes, the weight doesn't matter whether it's under 5 pounds or over 5 pounds because it is, in a flat rate box that's 1 to 70 pounds. Do I cover shipping over a pound on my shows? Yes, if needed, but I rarely to never use all of my adjustments. And I don't sell as much as some of the other fabric sellers. There are some fabric sellers that do pay a lot of extra shipping because they sell so much that, there's no way they're going to be able to use only those 5 adjustments and not have to pay anything. But um, it's worth it to them because they can sell a lot more. So it just depends on, how much you sell and what you're willing to pay on the back end to have that volume. Because reduced shipping is key in helping people want to buy more for sure. Let's see, I've been using one listing for everything. I don't mind having different settings. You listened to so many people, so there's that. Yeah. I don't do that, and here's why. I know that the bigger sellers use one listing. I don't do that because I do have a decent amount of customers who buy one or two items. And then I have to go in and adjust the weight on the back end because if I use a listing that's only a 1 to 3 or 4 to 7 ounce and their item actually weighed 8 to 12 or running the risk, if I sell something that I know is over a pound, I sell it as over a pound because I don't want to have to use all my adjustments. So I have let's see, I have a listing that is a 1 to 2 ounce. I have one that is 1 to 4. I have one that's 4 to 7, 8 to 11, 12 to 15, and then over a pound. So I have like 6 listings I use. And it is a little bit more work to, every time I switch from one weight to another. But on the back end, if they only bought 1 or 2 items, I'm safe. I, the weight is accurate and I'm not having to adjust a whole lot of weights and I'm not having to take the risk that I sold something over a pound that's actually it wasn't given enough weight. So I do it that way. Um, if I sold even more of a volume than I already do, I might go to that model, but that's where you run the risk of having to pay a lot of the extra shipping because you know, because people are buying a lot, but but that would be your business model at that point that you're willing to, you're getting enough bids, selling enough items, and you're willing to pay some of the extra shipping. Would you say doing a single category item show, same weight for beginning sellers to prevent shipping mistakes costing the seller money? Um, well, so like if you're doing, so like someone who sells trading cards, for example, trading cards are very lightweight and you can have a lot of trading cards. I mean, maybe if you're selling the ones that are in little cases, then they're a little bit more weight, the little, hard plastic ones. But, if you're selling individual cards, it takes a lot of cards to get to, over an ounce. I think you can get 10 regular size trading cards in an envelope before it goes over an ounce, right? So, so yeah, if you sell the same thing over and over and over, just create a custom shipping profile that is the exact weight so that, it just keeps it right at where it needs to be based on your type of packaging and stuff, you know. So then you just need a single listing. But if you have things that vary, I think one of the hardest categories to sell in, honestly, are the people who sell just random stuff out of storage lockers or vintage because it's all over the place, right? And so they have to, you know, usually the really successful people in those categories, they they do that. They just have a single listing, but they sell at such a high rate and high volume that they use that system because then on the back end, they can do all the adjustments that they need to, and they're willing in their business model to pay for the extra shipping because they are selling, they blow and go. I mean, they're selling so fast, and if they're good, they have a big audience and things get bid up and they're willing to pay the extra shipping. So, hey, Fabric and Treasures, welcome in. And congrats, you just unlocked Drasby. So, yeah. But yes, they do pay a lot on the back end. So you have to be smart about what you're doing. And you also need to be careful about large, bulky, fragile items. You either choose not to sell them at all on the platform, or you curate your show so that you don't do the bigger, bulkier items in every show. You have a more specific show, and then you have your shipping settings set differently for that show because a lot of those are going to have to be sent separately. So, yeah, people will, have a more curated experience when they're selling the larger, bulkier items. So if you use the 921, you really need to be putting the weight in each item, or the extra expense will come back on the seller in the end, right? I would say yes. So if you're not at that level yet where you can afford, to pay the extra shipping, I think it's better practice to use, more accurate weight per item. That's how I do it, you know. And like I said, I literally cannot remember the last time that I had to pay any shipping. It's Thursday, and I've had two big shows, and I haven't used a single adjustment yet. So I still have 5 adjustments that I can use. And by the end of the week, we rarely, have used all of our adjustments. I've had a few times where I've used them all, but we just curate our shows with that in mind. And this is my full-time income, and my husband and I do this together, and we're making more right now than when both of us had full-time jobs. So if you do it right, if you're smart about it, you can still do really well on this platform. You just need to have everything set up correctly, and you need to be smart about how you set up your shows. And I'll be honest, there's sometimes where we look at the orders for a show and we wind it down because we're getting close to that point where we might have a couple, we might have 3 or 4 customers who are getting close to that point that we're not going to be able to fit everything they ordered into a flat rate package. and we watch that closely. And, it's better sometimes to do more shows for a shorter amount of time, and then you avoid that problem, you know? So just be smart about how you do things. If you want to go big, and you want to go premiere and you want to be like on top of the world, yes, you can do it, but that's where you've got to have that business model where you're blowing and going, and then you can, build it into your business model that you're willing to pay a decent amount of the shipping. So I heard a number the other day. One of our premier sellers spends about $300 a show paying the extra shipping. So that's just a number, I mean, that's just a number out there to give you an idea. And I'm sure there's other sellers in some of the other categories where their shipping spend is astronomical, but it's part of their business model. They're still very profitable. It's built in. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, yeah. And unlimited. Yeah. You're welcome. So instead of, 3, 4, 5 hour shows where, amen, it's a pain in the butt to ship because it's so much stuff, have more frequent, shorter shows, and then the shipping is not as big of a nightmare, and you're not using as many of your adjustments or having to pay the shipping. Okay. So just figure out what works for you. And I know customers will sometimes pressure you, and try to give them the best value for their money. Make sure they can get as much value out of their shipping as possible. But at the same time, it's your bottom line, not theirs. And 9.21 for as much as you can fit in a flat rate package is still an amazing shipping price compared to anywhere else you can shop except for Amazon Prime, which you pay for, right? So it's still an amazing rate. Remind people of that. Remind people it's an amazing deal to get a huge box, large flat rate box full for $9.21. The commercial regular rate, if you walk into a post office and pay the shipping on a large flat rate box, I haven't done it in a while, but I think it's almost $30. So, I mean, that's an amazing rate. Okay. All right. So, yeah, just be smart about how you put things together, your timing, your scheduling, and how you schedule, how you put together what you're going to sell, how long you're going to sell, and you watch, and you don't have to abruptly end a show. You can smoothly, decide, okay, we're done. We're, we've sold enough, and a couple of the people have bought enough that I think we need to wrap it up. And so maybe do a giveaway, maybe take last requests, and then get ready to rake. That's okay, you know. And maybe late joiners, that's okay. They can buy next time. Or if they only got a couple of things, give them a chance to add a few more things to their order. Um, the very best tool that a lot of sellers are neglecting is the buy it now and flash sales. Use your buy it now, put stuff in there, and run flash sales, and do the type that they can't buy it until you flash it. I don't know, there's a mental thing about it sitting there. They can see it, but they can't buy it until you run it. So have some nice items towards the end of the show, for people to add on to their order. flash sale a few things. Maybe make them lighter weight things, but nice things, you know. Um, and then you can also do flash sales that run during, in the background during your show and remind people to go look, or just remind people for the things that are available without a flash sale that are in your buy it now. I sell something out of my buy it now in almost every show. I had one the other day, I think that I didn't, and it was because it was a very focused show on a specific brand. And so people didn't want to leave to go look at buy it now stuff because they were very focused on what I was selling in the auction. But other than that, I sell stuff out of the buy it now in every show, and I run flash sales a lot, and it's a huge part of my business. So don't neglect getting listings in your buy it now. Um, there's a lot of times that I go into shows and I'm not necessarily interested in what they're selling in their auction, but to support sellers, I will buy things out of people's buy it now. And I'm disappointed when I go into shows and they don't have things in their buy it now because I would have bought something to support them if there was something available. So don't neglect the buy it now. It makes a huge difference to your bottom line. All right. Is the chat frozen? Because I haven't seen anyone pop in or anything. Is it frozen? Oh, there it's going. All right, welcome in. Make sure you read the show notes. Let's see. Sometimes my bin does not show. Sometimes my bin does not show. The only reason it wouldn't show is if you have nothing in there. So remember that the buy it now for a show is different than your marketplace. Those are two separate things. So in order for items to show in your buy it now, you have to add them to your show. Yeah, so you need to add them to your show. So if you have items listed in your profile, so if I go to your profile right now and I look and see that you have some items in your shop. So I'm going to your profile right now. So see, you have some listings, right? But those listings will not necessarily be in your buy it now during a show unless you put them there. So you have to go into your show. So, like your next show is tomorrow, you need to open that show. So, I'm going to open that show right now just to show you. Okay. So, right now, you do have listings in your buy it now. See that? You've got all of these flash sale items, right? But it was because you specifically put them there, right? So the other stuff that's on your marketplace will not show up in here unless you add it. So if you want it to show up here, then while you're in your show, so let me show you. So like in my show today, if I want to add something, oh, whoops, sorry, I have a video on here with noise. If I want to add something in my buy it now, that little plus sign, import from inventory. And then I can go out and find those things that are actually available in my shop and bring them into the show. So if I want to find something that is, available, so like this. Okay, this is a little heart-shaped nesting ceramic bowl set. Why not add it to my buy it now? So I'm going to import it. Did you see how I did that? All right, so now it's in my buy it now as an option for someone to buy. Let me find it because it resorted it. So those little nesting bowls. is right there. So now it's in there. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah, so make sure you understand how listings work, because a listing can be just in the marketplace, a listing can be in your auction, or it can be in your buy it now. Or, so like in this case, if I edit this item, let's look and see how it's set up. So this item is set up as a buy it now item. I know that, but it's turned on to reserve for live. That means that it's only available if someone buys it in a show. If I turn this little setting off that says reserve for live, if I turn that off and save it, which I can do, then that means it's also available for purchase in my shop, in my marketplace, 24/7 shop. So there it is. Someone can click that right now outside of a show if they want to and buy it. But before I turned that reserve for live off, it was only available for purchase in a live show in the buy it now. So that's another thing you have to understand about listings. You have to look at the settings that you put on them, and that's where you decide, is it going to be, available flash? Is it reserved for live or available on the marketplace? Okay. So those settings, pay attention to those settings. All right. Any questions about that? Yeah, listings are amazing, honestly. They've pretty much nailed it down to where once you create a listing, even if it has sold, you can go find it in inactive, add more units, and bring it back to life and add it to a show again if it's the same thing. Or you can change the title and the description and the units and make it live again and use it again if it was something similar. So you can always use your listings over and over and over just by updating them. Oh, that was very generous of you. Thank you. Thank you for the tip. So always utilize your listings. It's a little bit easier to work with them on the web version if you're trying to find it and renew it. So go in on the web version, Seller Hub, inventory, and then you have a whole like spreadsheet type listing of all your inventory in either active, pending, or sold, or inactive is what it's called. Inactive. And then if it's inactive, it's because there's two ways that it can be inactive. It's sold, so it's inactive, or it's inactive because it was an auction item or a buy it now item that you did not put into a show. And so it's just sitting there inactive, waiting for you to put it into a show. So it's an item that was either an auction item or a buy it now item that was reserved for live. If it's on your marketplace, buy it now, it will always be active until it sells. Okay. So go play with your inventory on the web version. So Seller Hub inventory, and see the different categories. I can't show you that here because I only have mobile devices. But on your web version, it's nice to go in there and see what you have. Also, it will prompt you if you have listings that are not quality listings, are missing information. And it's good to update those with, the things to make it a quality listing so that it's something someone would be comfortable buying without you having to add more info. So yes, you learn how to use your inventory properly to keep track of your listings and use them again so you're not having to do extra work to recreate things that you already have available. Learn how to find them and use them again. It's a huge time saver. You can also, on the web version, download listings using a CVS file. So if you had listings, I don't know all of the other platforms it works with, but I do know, if you can export a CVS file from a previous platform, like Poshmark or Etsy or maybe some of the others, eBay, I don't know. If you can get it into a CVS file, you can import it into Whatnot, and then you'll have those listings. And you always have to do a little bit of fixing on those, but you can import it and it will save you a lot of time. So that's on the web version. Sharon is asking if I want to give someone a tip like you, just from Julie. It says that I have to do that with a different payment source, like a credit card. Why? You probably have PayPal as your payment source, and PayPal does not allow, it doesn't work for tips. I'm not sure why. I just know it doesn't. So you have to have did I say yeah, CSV. I was probably saying CBS, which is a business. CVS pharmacy. I always screw that up. Yeah, so PayPal will not allow you to do tips. I'm not sure why. So yeah, you have to have a separate credit card on file to do tipping. So probably just the way PayPal works. They don't allow you to do certain types of transactions. So yeah. I know. And that's funny, isn't it? Because it's like it's just in your brain, CVS instead of the other way around. So CSV file. So usually a debit card, or some cards call it a cash advance. Oh, that's probably why. Yeah. So yeah, so it's probably like the prepaid cards and some of the other ones that are more like I don't know, does anyone still use like diners or any of those other kind of cards? They probably don't allow it. There are a few sellers here on Whatnot that do the CSV teaching. Search for it in shows. Yeah, I'm sure there's some YouTube um, videos that will show you how to do it. I never used it because I didn't ever have the inventory that I had on other platforms wasn't relevant because it was mostly handmade stuff, and I'm not selling a lot of my handmade stuff here. So I've never attempted to do that. But I use the inventory, I use listings over and over and over. I just add more units, change pictures. I hardly ever have to create brand new ones. And when I do, I'm using that scan feature that I was showing you, or I'm actually in the beta for AI and I'm using that as well. So I can create listings pretty quickly, which is amazing. Yeah, AI is coming. They're still working on it, but it is imminent, and it's amazing to be able to use AI to create your listing. Saves you a ton of time. So yeah, some really, really, really good updates are coming soon. They've been working hard on a lot of really important, good stuff. So, you know, watch for that. Be excited. It's going to make our lives as sellers a lot easier, to have some amazing tools. So, you guys have it great, honestly. When I first started selling on Whatnot, it was like night and day compared to what it is now. I mean, we had to do pretty much everything manually, including the raid. There was no raid feature. You had to, if you wanted to take your show, you walked everybody over. So you would say, okay, we're going to go visit so and so. And you would encourage everybody to, when you ended, show up at the other place. So we actually had like sort of like raid trains, but it was manual, and shipping was actually pretty easy, but it was a lot more expensive for well, not a lot more actually, because Whatnot was kind of new and they were trying to encourage buyers and sellers, so they were covering a lot of the cost, but it was really clunky. It was really clunky. Um, so yeah, I mean, the features that we have available now and the way that we can do things is amazing compared to when I first started selling. So you guys are lucky. We worked out all the bugs and got all the things, and you guys have it so much better. So yeah, yeah. And they really are, they really do care. They really are working on making things better. And I know there's sometimes features that we love that go away. If you've been here long enough, you can remember when we had gifting and we all loved it, and that sadly had to go away. It just wasn't feasible with I don't know programming terms, but basically the way that they wrote that into how the app works with the expansion, it just wasn't possible to keep that and have it work smoothly with all the different things they're trying to do. Maybe someday that will come back, but yeah. Yes, the rate on trains are not working smoothly right now, and they know that, and they are working on it. Um, yeah, so that's happening. So here's the workaround for that. Um, right before you raid, tag in chat the person that you're going to raid. And then when you raid, just tell people if you accidentally get left behind, it's easy for them to just click that in the chat and go to that show that you raided to. So, yeah, there's a little glitch right now where for some reason it's leaving people behind. I think it might have to do with um, if they were if their screen was minimized. I've noticed that. So if they had their screen minimized when the raid happened, it leaves them behind. And there's a couple other scenarios I've noticed, like if you were shopping in the bin and you had your window open to the bin instead of the auction, I've gotten left behind in that too. So they are aware of that. So yeah, I would just recommend, when you create your raid, you've got it up on the screen right before you hit raid, tag the seller that you're raiding into in chat and tell people if you get left behind, you know, they'll be sitting there on this show has ended, but that will be in the chat, that tag, and they can click it and then come on over to the show that you rated into. So, yeah, do that. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, we were the test subjects, the people who worked out a lot of the kinks. So, but I'm so glad that I found the app when I did. And I'll be honest with you, I regret that I did not jump in and start doing things faster, because the amount of growth that early adapters have had is phenomenal. as I got approved to sell in like August and I kind of drug my feet and didn't start doing shows until like September, November. And I regret that big time because, you know, it just, it just really, the amount of growth from in those 3 years has just been phenomenal. I wish I would have found it 2 years ago when I lost my job. Yeah. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. So, and with that in mind, it's still, I mean, even though Whatnot is becoming more and more known, still, when you talk to people just out there, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, how many people still have never heard of Whatnot? It's still, it's not a household word still. So the opportunity is still there. So make sure you're always sharing it. Share what you do, use your social media to share. Tell everybody that you meet what you're doing and where you are and share your link. Get people to come on over because we always need new customers, we always need new sellers to keep it, you know, growing and active. And so, yeah, always share what you're doing and give other people that same opportunity as well. Good morning, Field Trip. How are you this morning? Hope you're having a good day. So, yeah, I mean, the amount of growth that the platform has gone through in those 3 years is amazing. It's a relatively new platform. I think I'm trying to remember, origin date was like 2019, and they started with just, Funko Pops and like trading cards, pretty much was their start, that kind of stuff. And, holy cow, what it's become. And the fact that they even keep it running with the amount of growth we've had in that time is phenomenal. The employees at Whatnot are very, very, very invested in this product. I can tell you that with 100% assurance. They're very invested. They love their jobs, they love what they do, and they really want to make this the best platform. And from my perspective, having sold on multiple other platforms, I haven't sold on them all, but almost all of them. There is no comparison with the amount of support and the amount of willingness to try to make this better for the sellers. I mean, there's no comparison, and I hope it stays that way. I don't see it not staying that way because I think they learned from other platforms' mistakes. Yeah. So I mean, I think this is the best place I've ever, ever, ever been. And I've been reselling since 1996. I'm old school. 1996. I've been reselling, not full time. This is the first time I've ever been full time. So it's the first time I felt like I could be full time, right? So 1997. Wow. Yep. See, both of us are old school. Old school. So Kelly Belly 09. Is she here in chat? Has a first show tomorrow? How about we go, everybody click on her name in Sharon's comment there and give Kelly Belly a follow. And let's go look. All right. So Kelly Belly's very first show is tomorrow at 12. Everybody give that show a bookmark and bookmark her upcoming shows. I love when we get to support a first seller or a first show for someone. That's exciting. The first thing I bought off of a resale auction site was 2003. Maybe y'all sold me those red Frey boots. Well, it wasn't me because I have not sold boots, but you know, um, so here's my story. So I was a new um new mom going back to college to finish college, and we had our first kid, and so I was part-time in school, and we were living with my mom to save money. And I love dolls, and I collect dolls. And well, I semi collect dolls. There's some I keep and most I sell. But I came across a yard sale where someone was getting rid of a bunch of Barbies they had collected, and I bought it for $100, and I sold them on the Bay in 1996, and I that's how I paid for my tuition. That's how I paid for school, is selling dolls on eBay. So there you go. And that's mostly what I sold on there for a long time. Um, is dolls. And then yeah, that was mainly what I did on there for a long time. And then I opened an Etsy shop in 2006, I want to say. And yeah, so Spirit Junkie paid down student loans. Yep, yep. And for us, it was just my side gig. I stayed home um as a mom and did reselling. And then I took a part-time job doing medical billing, because that was what I did before I had kids. And then I stayed home and they allowed me to work from home. So I did part-time medical billing and part-time reselling, and had an Etsy shop and did my medical billing. And that allowed me to stay home with my kids. So that was awesome. On Etsy, I sold handmade bags, and I also sold vintage clothing and vintage linens and sewing patterns and just pretty much sewing related, and then handmade items. And I did really well for about 5 years on there, and then it just kind of died. And then I sold masks like a lot of people did, because I had fabric, because I also sold fabric. So I sold masks in 2020 and worked my fingers to the bone selling masks for everybody, like a lot of people did. And then I really haven't done a whole lot on there. I still have a shop, but I don't, it's on permanent vacation because they ruined the platform. So I was very disillusioned with that platform. They ruined it. It was very tragic death, in my opinion. I mean, it's still there, it's still going, but it's not anything what it should be. It was supposed to be handmade vintage supplies, and then they allowed drop shippers and all that other stuff in, and it ruined it. So yeah, kind of a sad slow death. Yep, they changed their values, so it happens. And then I found Whatnot through I was watching Harry Tornado on YouTube one day because I used to like to watch him, and he talked about Whatnot, and I checked it out, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, that's how I found Whatnot, was through Harry Tornado. Handmade is here on Whatnot. It's just, because we're not known specifically for that, but there is a lot of people that are being very successful with homemade, handmade. You just have to find a niche and you have to bring your customers. So it is kind of hard in that way. But honestly, you had to bring your customers on the other platforms too. It wasn't automatic. So it's a lot of hard work if you want to do handmade. But the pricing isn't here yet. The full audience isn't here yet, but you can do handmade and be successful. What I would say is you mix it in. You mix it in and you find a niche. There's a lot of really successful people here doing artisan type things. Like a Reworker's Passion is a very successful seller, and she sells handmade soap and crocheted items, and she's doing very well, full-time income. There's people that are doing a lot of upcycled things, but because they're selling them in the category that it makes sense in, you don't even really think about it as handmade. Um, and they supplement it by doing other things in addition. So Faye West is almost exclusively handmade. She's doing jewelry and other, marketable items. Yes, there's a lot of people in woodworking doing stuff. Um, you can find a niche, but you really got to work hard to network, get your name out there, and do other things. So I used to mix a lot more in, but I've gotten so busy just selling that I don't have a lot of time to make things. Yeah. Yes, the guy who does the paintings, mini, what is it? Mini Piggy. I always forget exactly what it is. But he has a ton of people. He's very popular. And oh, thank you so much for the raid, Shannon. Thank you so much. Appreciate the raid. Everybody give Shannon Mill. I'm going to tag her in chat. Shannon Mill just raided us. Thank you so much. She's an awesome seller. She is selling fabric, but she does a lot of demos and kits and is doing well. So thank you so much for that raid. Everybody give Shannon a follow. Mini Piggy. Yeah, they're so fun to watch. He's totally deadpan, sitting in a chair, covered in paint, and he spins the art. Yeah, he's found a niche, and it's just a lot of fun. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Shannon. You're headed to Pilates. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I need to wrap it up here pretty quick because I have a show today that I've got to get ready, finish getting ready. So I'm going to sell vintage linens today. So I have some really nice tea towels that are the calendar ones that are fun, and a lot of other like embroidered stuff, and just a lot of fun things. And I've been hoarding it for a while, and I used to do that type of show more often. I just haven't. And I'm like, I need to do this and get rid of some of this stuff. So it's taking up lots of room. So I'm excited to have that show. It'll be fun. Hey, Carrie Kate, how are you today? So, yeah, that's what I'm doing today. And then tomorrow, I'm in that fun Fabric Feud raid train. Julie's in that one. Who else is in that one? It's a fun raid train, and I'm doing my fat quarter layer again. Yeah, linens are really fun. I love vintage linens. It's one of my weaknesses. If I see them somewhere for a good deal, I usually pick them up. So, like I said, I've had a little bit of a hoard for a while that I needed to go through. So, and um I do keep a certain amount just because I like to have them if I want to make something out of vintage linens. I'll keep some that are like the ones that what you would call cutters, that have too many stains or holes, and you can use them to make something. I would love to make clothing. Like there's some really cute sellers that are on Facebook a lot that are making clothing out of, vintage tablecloths and curtains and all that fun stuff. And they make the cutest things. I don't have the time or the talent, but they make the cutest stuff. Oh, you're welcome. You are so welcome. I'm glad you joined. I hope you got some good info today. All right, so I do need to get going. So let's go find someone to raid into. Let's go raid into a vintage category. That is kind of where I'm doing my show today. So I'm going to go find someone in vintage decor that's maybe doing something similar. Let's see. Ooh, blue and white aesthetic. That sounds fun. Oh, it's a raid train doing blue and white stuff. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Thank you for being here. Let's see. A lot of these are raid trains. That's kind of fun. Let's find someone that's kind of in between here. They're glass. Plates and art. Now I'm having fun looking at all the vintage shows that are on. Well, let's read into Looking Glass Lane, except maybe they're just mostly doing glass. They're doing Pyrex. What the heck? Let's go into Upcycled by Bree. She always has a good selection of all kinds of fun things. So let's go read into Upcycled by Bree. She's an awesome seller. And thank you, everybody, so much for being here. And we're going to go right into Upcycled by Bree. And I need to get on the rail or I'm going to fall off my treadmill. So here we go. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Sorry, that took me a while to figure out who I was going to raid. Now everybody's gone. Thanks. See you soon.